Welcome everybody to another live stream. It's great to be here, and we're talking about something a little different this week. I know I've been doing Thunderbirds over the last couple, and it will be coming back, but I have been bogged down with two big things that I'm going to talk about. One, my new workshop. The builder's finally finished, so now there's the joy of moving boxes out of every single room of my house into their new homes, many of which don't exist yet because they're in some of the other rooms and there's stuff in the way, and getting rid of a lot more stuff. I'm going to have to be really brutal and just get rid of stuff. Projects that I've bought that I'm not going to do are all going. So yeah, that's a big thing. And the other one, which is the main topic I'm going to talk about, is my new designed Kickstarter that's starting later this month. Whew. Oh, and Timber's putting in chat 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lights, camera, action. Thanks, Timber. Nothing like a big welcome. So thank you to everybody who's in chat. I can see quite a lot of names that I recognise already sort of coming in, I know, from all over the world. So thank you for joining me on Easter Sunday. Now, I know a lot of people had commitments, and Norm, who's one of my moderators, couldn't make it today, but thank you to Digger and Timber who have. I really appreciate my moderators. They do a huge amount of work getting rid of all those adult chatbots. I don't know what they want us to do, but they're soon got rid of, so you'll never find out. So welcome to everybody who's already joined. Stephen, who I've just seen pop up from Scotland. Nice to see you, Stephen. And Digger's reminding everybody to give it the thumbs up on likes. So I've got 52 concurrent viewers, well, now 46. I just lost 6, and 13 likes. So apparently I'm supposed to remind you every time to like it for, YouTube reasons. So I'm going to talk a lot about my Kickstarter because it's something very close to my heart. I need to advertise a bit more. I am such a Brit. It's like someone says, "Oh, that's really good." I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about it because I'm modest." Or I'm just like, "Oh, no, I can just see all the flaws." So I'm not really good at self-promotion. And a Kickstarter is all about promotion and getting it out there and letting people know. So I will be trying to promote it a little bit on this. But first, I want to talk about the journey that I've been on really over 3 years as a full-time modeler and why I'm now doing a Kickstarter. Because I say to people Kickstarter, and most people I talk to have no idea what I'm even talking about. Now, these are some of my mum's friends. These are my friends. Anybody who's not in the world that I live in doesn't seem to know what it is. It's quite funny. Or they go, "Isn't that for new tech stuff?" So we will address why Kickstarter and what I'm actually going to be doing in a second. But before we get there, I do want to say Thunderbirds will be back. I have struggled because I've had a new workshop, and I've mentioned that a couple of times already. The builders started, I started tidying last August because the builders were due in September. They rocked up in October, and then it had a bit of a week, 3-week delay because the architect missed a steel off. So the steel arrived eventually, the new one, which holds up half the side of the house. So it's quite an important one. And then we kind of got cracking on. The last thing is the carpet to go on the stairs. I've got to say, of all the tradesmen I've had have been excellent, apart from the guy who does flooring, who always turns up 2 weeks later than he says. So as long as you know he's going to be 2 weeks later, I guess you're okay. He's just never the day he says he's going to be. And apparently he's starting on Tuesday. And that'll be the last thing then that's about putting stuff in the house at the moment. There's still some decoration of rooms that have had concrete pads in for steels and stuff, but that's all in the future. But what it has made me realise, as a person, I buy too much stuff. I'm really sorry. I do. I buy too much stuff. I've got projects and I'm taking a long, hard look at them. I keep every scrap of styrene in case I can reuse it in a project. What am I going to do with a little bit of styrene this big? What am I going to do with it? I have no idea, but I keep it just in case. And I've got whole sheets of styrene, the right size, sat there. So I've been going through getting rid of all those little bits of styrene, the punches, and a lot of, this was a failed 3D print, but I kept it because it might be useful. Okay, we could just bin that. Or, this is a failed, I printed extra. So now I've got a spare lava wall from Tomb Raider. I'm not not going to use those rules again. Yes, they might make wonderful something buried in the dirt one day, but the chances are I'll do something new for it rather than pull something out my scrap box. So I'm being ruthless about that. I'm also being ruthless about how much I'm keeping of everything. So I will be getting rid of more train stuff. Examples like, I've got my old controller for my 12-foot square layout. It's massive, it's big, it's an NC power cab. I'm never going to use it. It's a Pro Cab. I use the Power Cab, which is a simple handheld for Port to Norwich. That's all I'm ever going to need for the type of layout I'm planning to build in future. So that's going along with the 2 handsets. So there's loads of things like that I'm looking at going, I haven't got enough room for everything. I need to get rid of some more. I know I will put this out because actually it doesn't fit into my new world order. And let's just imagine that probably in 10 years' time I'll be buying it all again. But hopefully I'll be earning some money by then. But anyway, let's go look at chat. Oh, so we've got the Growler from Blackwood Engage. Welcome. Alden, I'm a novice. What is a Kickstarter, please? Aiden, sorry. Is it Alden or Aiden? It's hard to see. Aiden. Definitely going to cover that in a second. Don't worry. I'll get there in a second. So 2 of the 3 SWAT team are there. Yeah, you guys can come in and deal with any trouble. Evening, David. Tom, hi. First visit to your live stream. Looking forward to it. Oh, thank you, Tom. It's going to be a lot more talky than normal. Normally, I show a good hour and a half of modelling videos on my live streams, and I want to make that clear. This is probably a one-off because my live stream, I wanted to go out and then go and do the Kickstarter this week, and I'm still printing stuff and testing it. So I've decided the gaps. I've been putting the renders together, explain it all in a minute in a bit more detail, and that's revealed gaps. So there's still gaps, and I'm doing things like, these are test prints, and I'm like, oh, that had an error. I didn't cut something properly on a Boolean, or I didn't cut all of it, so I need to go and do a bit more. So there's loads of little things like that are just tweaking through at the moment, and then it's going to go out to print testing later this week, hopefully. But welcome, Tom. It is normally slightly different to this. Stephen, you're British, Kathy. We are better at handling criticism than compliments. Oh yeah, criticism? Yeah, okay. Someone told me I talk too much. And what happens on YouTube, for those of you who don't have a channel, you answer your comments on the app and it tells you all your unanswered comments. And I don't answer the rude ones. So every day when I get to the bottom of my unanswered comments that people have made, I get the rude ones that I don't want to do. So at the moment, every time I get to the bottom, I get a, you talk too much. I'm like, whatever. What does he know? I'm a woman. I'm British. Of course I talk. Timber says we're all guilty of hoarding. I think I've had a bit of a revelation, and because my house has been in such a mess, because I took everything out of the loft in a hurry and then didn't really sort it, and I got rid of all the rolling stock. I spent a lot of time sorting that, and then the builders were due to start, so I thought, all right, and I boxed everything up, and I couldn't get at it then because there was just too much stuff, and they've used all the rooms I wasn't expecting. So the rooms I was going to sort in, I then couldn't. So literally since October to now, I've not been able to get at a lot of the boxes, and as a result, I've not been able to sort a lot of the boxes. And because they haven't been able to be sorted, I haven't had the big throw out when the skip was here that I probably should have. Tom says I'm not the only one that's never thrown anything away, and some of it is useful, but you have to be able to find it, and my problem now is I can't find things. So welcome to Arthur. Hi, welcome aboard. And then the Growler, I think we all do it, Kathy. I keep bits of cardboard in case they come in handy for something for the future. 4 years later, throw them out. I've got the card backing for the pads I used as an auditor at KPMG when I was qualifying as an accountant. Now, I qualified as accountant in '98. They're last century, and I've still got a wodge of them. It's sort of thin grey cardboard. I've still got it. I've still got them. I've still got some of those pads. I'm like, that's 25 years old worth of cards sat there. But I'm still probably going to carry on keeping them because card could be useful. So Digger's also going to have a massive sort out. It's actually quite cathartic to throw stuff out, though I am throwing most of it at Anomax Anonymous if it's remotely useful for a railway person. I'm not just necessarily throwing it out. Stephen Mary's always getting on to me about the stuff I hoard. Yep, it's a problem. And then Digger, wow, the idiot's making rude comments on your videos. I will keep an eye on that. I don't get that many rude comments, actually. The biggest one ever was when I accidentally said Stormtroopers instead of Clone Troopers for my Clone Wars video. And I must have had about 200 comments on it. And the other 200 comments on that video were, I put both lightsabers on the ground in the last, it's for the last scene of the Clone Wars, which I literally just watched again this evening, having watched all 7 seasons in chronological order this time. She drops one and you see it, and you see Darth Vader pick up one, but you don't see the second one. But in the book, she drops the second one with the first one, and the book's slightly different anyway, but she buries them together. So I just like, oh, I'll just stick it on. I've modelled it, I'll stick it on. I had so many comments going, she doesn't drop the second one. I'm like, well, what does she do with her second lightsaber? She never has it in the future. She got rid of it. She must have left it there. But everybody wanted to comment on it. And a lot of people have commented on my latest Clone Wars one that I've got the doors on upside down. And I went and looked at it and they're now the right way up. So I must have just had them upside down for the photos that go at the end of the video and then fixed them accidentally. They come off a lot whenever I handle it. So yeah, you do get comments like that. Stating the obvious, I'm a hoarder. I'm channeling my inner dragon. Yes, but I don't keep gold and shiny stuff. I keep, rubbish really. Tamsin could be related to smoke. I think we all could be. And there's just so much stuff I have. And I've got crates and crates of kits. Now I'm going to have a sort out of some of the kits. Some of them are really expensive craftsman kits, and I know I'm never going to build them now. But I've pulled bits out and used them. So I'm going to put them all back together. And then and all the books and the plans are separate. So I'll get them all together and put them in. And then what I need to do is get rid of some of the ones I'm never going to build now. So I'll keep the ones, I visited a lot of these kits, the locations they were based on, the prototypes, and I'll keep the ones I visited and I'll probably get rid of the rest because it takes 6 months to a year to build one. And realistically, I just don't have the time for them at the moment. And I don't see myself doing it again in the future in a hurry. So by the time I get around to it, I think keeping 5 or 6 would be more than enough rather than the 30 I've got. So yeah. So Stephen, good news, I finally got the garage floor finished. Next job is the train room, or the swamp as I call it. Are you going to model a swamp? I did a swamp railway once. It's great fun. David, I have stuff all over the house and it's so untidy I feel awful. Fortunately, the job I've been doing is coming to an end and I'm going to have time to tidy up so I can safely walk about. I have literally walked over 3D printed landing pads. I have literally tiptoed around every bit in the kitchen. I turned the light on and dropped an FDM print while I did it and smashed 5 clones. I never even found one of the heads. I had to reprint the bad batch because they got the brunt of it. Becca was not very strong. So, it's been a nightmare in the house, and I've got a lot of started projects which get shelved because another project starts that has a, quicker time date on it. Thunderbirds would be an example. I've got 2 other projects coming out ahead of it now. Some of them are sponsored, so they come out ahead, and some of it's Kickstarter. So that's beating it because Kickstarter will hopefully earn me money in a way YouTube doesn't. So what else we got? Evan, I thought you saw her drop both of them, but it looks like a rewatch time again. No, I literally watched it this evening. She only drops the one, and that's fine. And you only see him pick up the one, but she must have dropped both. She really must have. And so many people pick me out on it. Everyone thinks they did. I just used to say by the end, well, in the book she dropped both. And people are like, oh, I haven't read the book. I'm like, I've one-upped you. I hadn't actually read the book at the time. I just read what happened to her lightsabers on Wikipedia and it said that. I've since read the Ahsoka book just to see what happened almost. But yeah. And I do love the Clone Wars. I could happily, having just watched all 7 seasons, start it all over again because and skip some of the episodes with the droids. But, I just really love it at the moment. It's a big thing. Right, I'm going to take a couple more comments and then I'm going to show you what I'm doing for the Kickstarter and then talk about what is a Kickstarter for those people who don't know, which is apparently most people. The Growler. My wife says I also hoard locos. Did a stock take the other week and now I'm banned from buying any new stock until I offload some of the existing stuff. I got rid of 32 crates of stock already. I've got 7 crates left, and a crate of that is English and it's going with Port de Norwich, which is going to a friend because I haven't got room for it and I like the building, not the running at the moment, and I'm going to have to be ruthless and it's just too big. So it's going to somebody, either privately or to go into their museum display, which they're in charge of. So it will go to them. I get the only person I offered it to because, you know, they've been really good. So that will go to them, very coded. They know who they are. They're probably on the live stream at some point. Maybe not tonight, but later. And, you know, I'm going to offload stuff to them. But I got rid of 32 crates. I had thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and pounds worth invested, and you don't get the money back. But I haven't earned for properly now for 3 years, so actually the money I release from this will be quite useful. Hi, by the way, says Evan. Nice to catch your live stream. That's brilliant. I'm so bad at catching live streams at the moment. I've been so busy and I'm concentrating, so I try and I've had music on rather than words. Do I stream at the same time every week? No, I actually stream on the second Sunday of the month, every month at 8 p.m. UK time. So it's once a month. I don't do enough content reliably every week to stream every week. So I just do it once a month. And actually, Digger says from the first Sunday of each month. It's the second Sunday, Digger. Second, just get it out there. But Timber says the same thing. So you beat me to it. It's not the first Sunday, guys. It's the second Sunday. For everyone who's just said first, it's the second. And the reason for that is merely the first seems to creep up more and the second makes me, I'm in the month. The trouble is, if the 1st of April is a Sunday like it was this month, I will forget that it's the 1st of April. So I get a bit lost. But the second one kind of hits me a bit easier. So that's why we go for the second. So Tamsin had a fun 3D print earlier. Detached from the plate about 40 minutes in, checked the STL and found it was hovering 0.6 millimetres off the bed. No idea, didn't detach earlier. I hate that. I've had one that I printed. It's actually the backdrop of the Clone Wars one with the double lightsaber drop. And it just had one corner, like there must have been 1 pixel out or something that was attached and everything else floated off. It's just frustrating. It's still not the first Sunday, Digger. Stop telling people it's the first. You probably already have now by the time I catch up. Chat I don't keep up with, but I'm also on a 20-second delay. So I've said something and it's 20 seconds before it goes out to you. So it takes a while. So Simon says, I wish I didn't know what Kickstarter is, lol. Too many things backed over the last 10 years. Only a couple fail, fortunately. Well, let's talk about Kickstarter then, guys. So first of all, quick little sneak. This is what I'm doing for my Kickstarter. I'm just going to move me down. Oops, no. I'm going to move me down. Let's put that back and move me down. There we go. Out the way. So these are modular landing pads. Now for all of you, I'll talk a bit about why Kickstarter, why not Patreon. That's a Mission Fleet. I just got that today. It's a Kenobi ship from Star Wars. I'm going to talk about why Kickstarter, why not Patreon or one of these other things. I'm also going to talk about why not railways, why I've gone sci-fi, and a number of other things. But these are my test prints. Now there's a lot I haven't printed. There's just huge tracks I haven't printed because it's modular. You can print like 1,000 options with this. It's just so many options. I was really struggling. And these big circles, which I was worried about, I did a test print, it didn't work. So they're actually on the second test prints. I'll talk a bit more about some of this later. This is only a 2-minute video, so I'll come back and actually talk through it and probably pause it while I'm doing that later. But just a sneak peek for now. So it's just something that's quite simple. I had some great advice from John Games at Second Dynasty, who said your first Kickstarter should be fairly small and achievable because it's going to be a learning experience. And I've done way too many models, and some of them just didn't work well, so they've either been scrapped or left on the rework pile. Some of them have gone into a later Kickstarters. I had quite a lot that were very walkway driven, and that is coming into a later one. I'll do a Sky City one, and some of them are just in need of some tweaks and work doing on them. So when I look at this, for example, the hex, I just literally reworked totally because I wanted to put girders on it underneath, and we'll talk about that again in a minute. So I've just had to totally rework it, and it's half printed there. It'll just be finished when I come back. This is actually a TIE fighter station there, but I don't own any TIE fighters. And then you can see that there's some Galaxy inspiration from Star Wars, but there's also Mass Effect, Titanfall 2, and all these other inspirations coming out. And there's a lot here that still needs printing. And then the final, that's the second Dynasty ship. Tamsin will recognise it, and that was the Alpha Shuttle. And then this is the final one. It's actually a diorama that I'd started, that I designed in the middle of this, and it's a very brutalist style, and that's for the DFD Lad. So I'm just going to put on in the background a photo slideshow of some of the renders that I've done, which is where I'm at the moment. And let's talk about Kickstarter. What is a Kickstarter, for all those that don't know? So Kickstarter is crowdfunding. It's a big platform. It enables you to get money before you've done all the work on a project. And if it enables you to get money before you've done all the work on a project, why am I doing all this work up front? Well, I thought a long time ago I could be a content creator, and I went into content creation, and it didn't really earn enough money. At the moment, YouTube just doesn't earn me enough money. I have some videos that are hits and some videos that get like 2K views. Even my videos that are hits will struggle to get to 3 figures, so £100 for the video in advertising revenue. Now, I've got a backlog of videos. I've got a few hundred out there. So each video earns a little bit, but I'm just not getting enough views on the channel. And over lockdown, it was increasing. But then I just hit a wall and I didn't grow. And I'm a great believer that doors open and doors shut for a reason. And I felt very firmly that YouTube door had slammed shut. This was about 18 months ago now, probably even longer. And I wasn't sure what to do. And then the people from Pocket Planet, which was a model world tourist attraction in London, got in touch. And they were like, we're going to be funded at Christmas. And this was September 2 years ago. And I thought, brilliant. Offered me a creative director role in charge of creating and designing the whole of the exhibit. Really, really exciting. So I was like, that's brilliant. Obviously, content creation isn't working. I've written a book in this as well. You know, I wrote a book. It's out there. Building realistic model railroad scenery from Calmback. You can get it on Amazon if you want to get it. And so I've written a book. Books don't earn you much money. I can tell you that now. And I was thinking, I think we've been through this a few times. Let me just go big. I was thinking, content creation. Somebody had said to me a year earlier, content creation, he's a YouTuber. He goes, I've got 100K, and he's now on nearly a couple of hundred. Get to 100K subscribers, you still won't have enough money. So I was like, okay. People keep telling me YouTube won't earn me enough, and YouTube, the door has slammed in my face. It isn't earning me enough. I thought maybe the book would be a route. I'd write books for a living and I'd actually sell books. But having written one, I didn't want to write a second. And I often say this. People say you've got one book in you. Everyone's got one book in them. You know why they've only got one? Because once they've written it, they don't want to have to write another one. And it took a year and it didn't earn enough for that amount of time. I was doing paid videos for people, and people want to pay you like under $200 for a video. And if you can crack out a 5-minute one, that could be okay. But actually, it's not a day's work to do a 5-minute video when you've got the modelling that goes with it. So everything takes time. Even just doing a behind the scenes Patreon video can take a whole morning to get done by the time I've revoiced over 3 times. So I was finding I was putting more and more time in and I was not earning any more money. So I put more time in, didn't earn any more money. And this, one of the guys I was chatting to who said you won't make any money on YouTube, he'd started to do 3D prints in model railroads. And I thought, that's interesting. 3D print. I love designing stuff. And you can see on my channel, I've morphed over to doing more and more 3D print design. So I do love it. It's a real passion of mine. I love sitting at the computer. I was an accountant for 25 years. I've got used to being in an office job and sitting at the computer all day. I did a lot of meetings as well. I talked a lot, did do some work as well. So, that's what I do. I spend a lot of time at the computer. I love modelling and I still enjoy modelling more than anything, but I realised I needed to find another route to make money. And the Pocket Planet job seemed like the perfect opportunity. It was like everything had led me there. And then it didn't happen. And it was supposed to be funded by Christmas. That fell through. Funded, and they were supposed to be signed by the end of July, cashed by the end of August with a new funder. And I'd hung on at this point, coming up for a year. We signed eventually just before Wally, and I spoke to a lot of people at Wally. So that's end of November for those of you who don't go to Wally. That was, 4 or 5 months later than expected. And then the dude who'd signed the funding agreement didn't transfer any cash. He just never provided the funding. And it's a lot of money for a tourist attraction. You can imagine it's a big spend. So, got to December, and at Christmas I just thought, I can't do this again. I can't wait forever for a job that probably isn't going to come. And actually, it's now April and that job still hasn't got funded. And if it gets funded, I'll have to make a decision whether I do it or not now, because mentally I've moved on. I've moved on to the backup plan, which I should have started a year earlier, but I didn't because I was waiting for this job. So I'm a year later than I'm meant to be doing this, but I've decided that I would do 3D print design in the mornings and model in the afternoon. So I keep the YouTube channel going because it's a good customer channel. People there, I engage with people, I get feedback. It's a good thing. I love the modelling. And in the mornings, I design 3D prints for Kickstarter. To be honest, for the last 3 weeks, I've done nothing but design 3D prints and tidy the new workshop because my old one's not workable in at the moment and my new one isn't workable in any either. So yeah, I'm kind of halfway between the two with half the stuff in different places. So I was thinking, right, I want to make money from 3D prints. What avenue shall I go down? And I follow a number of creators, and one I was put in touch with back summer of 2020, could have been 21, who knows, was Ben from Second Dynasty. And I did the Traveller Spaceport for him. There's bits of it down here on the floor, the original one I did. And actually, one of the landing pads you saw was a copy of one of the ones that's in pieces in the lounge somewhere. And I was very, very, I loved what he did. And he did Kickstarters, and he was on My Mini Factory, and he did a slew of stuff. And he was really helpful when I was feeling down about where I was going in life, and I'd given up a very well-paid financial consulting job, and I had like 2-3 years savings that I could get through without earning any money, so the money wasn't an issue at the time. And he really picked me up, and I was very, very grateful. So thank you, Ben, if ever you listen to this. I did appreciate it. It meant a lot. And he was very much, Kathy, you should go for this. You'd be brilliant at it. I've seen your design work. You can really do this. And he's been so supportive. In fact, he's offered me ships and people to go on, the Kickstarter, and I'm going to use some of his people to illustrate different sizes and things like that. I'm also going to use some from Darkfire Designs, who have also been very supportive, and I've got some ships from ZZM Armory. He sent me the STLs today, so I can put them in the renders. I've got one of them printed but not finished yet. So I need to have some ships to go on landing pads. So I've got a lot of smaller ships for the smaller landing pads, and you might have seen them in the video, and they're mostly Buzz Lightyear and Mission Fleets for Star Wars, and the really big purple one, I need to take the spikes off. It's a Zerg mothership, and I've seen them painted up and they look like amazing slim skinny Millennium Falcon type ships when you're done, so they do look quite Star Warsy. I've seen some conversions, so I've got quite a lot of work to do converting ships and things like that, which won't get done in time, but I'm hoping that if this is going to be my future, that I'll build up a library. So I was thinking Kickstarter, right? Why a Kickstarter? If I've got 3D print designs, there's a number of places you can go to get them that you can sell on. Places like Shapeways, but I feel that moment has passed for Shapeways. I don't really see it as much now, and I don't know how much people make on it. Ben did Kickstarters, and My Mini Factory runs something called Frontiers. They're just not as well known yet. And what the Kickstarter has is a community of people who will buy 3D print files from there, and they go on there and they look for them. But when you look anywhere, the railway ones versus sci-fi are just such different entities. So I love modelling strict, accurate, to the brick railway stuff. But it's strict and to the brick. you know, and I go overboard. You saw my Port de Norwich things that I designed, and I did them in resin. They warp slightly in resin, so I don't think resin buildings work that well. I've got one that I designed for my upstairs layout, which has gone in the bin now. I don't need it because, you know, I haven't got the layout. And over the year, since I printed it, it's done bananas. And so I'm worried about resin warping. It's all right for figures, because actually figures aren't flat, but for large flat structures, I find resin warps like mad. So I was thinking railways, sci-fi. Railways, sci-fi. Railways, accurate, to the point. I've got to do a prototype. I can't just do a generic building. But most of my fan base on things is American, because that's where I started modelling. So if I do UK outline, which I can see easily, none of the US people want to buy it. If I do US outline, none of the UK people want to do it. So I suddenly become a lot more limited in marketplace. And I, over the years, have spent a lot of time on YouTube, and some of the channels I really enjoyed learning scenery and looking at things were for terrain, for wargaming. Now, I've never done tabletop gaming. I was of the era where D&D was considered something satanic and you didn't play it. And it was coming in when I was at school from America. And actually, to be honest, it's not satanic. It's not at all. Now, if you watch Stranger Things, you can see that backlash that was around kind of explained there. You can see it coming through if you watch it. It was just one of those misinterpretations. Anyway, I didn't play D&D. I got into video games in my early 20s, and I've done a lot of video games, but I've never done tabletop gaming. So I thought, it's got a big marketplace. Go look on Kickstarter, and that's what Ben's Second Dynasty ships were. And I got put in touch with him by My Mini Factory. I did a sponsored video for them. So that's how I found him. And he does them for tabletop games. So I started to look at tabletop games, and there's a really defined marketplace there. Loads of people do tabletop games. Terrain. So I was like, there's a marketplace. Go look for scale models, dioramas, railways. A lot of them don't get funded, and they're not that popular. It's just not. So I'm looking for somewhere where I can sell stuff, and for an already defined market I know will buy stuff. And actually, if I model sci-fi, I can model whatever my imagination wants. I can pick a genre and stick with it. I don't have to be bound by reality. The only reality I have is, does it print and does it look good? It's so much easier. And I love sci-fi. I was brought up on sci-fi. If I get a chance to sit down of an evening, I don't watch a railway programme, I watch a sci-fi programme. My entire life, from my mother getting me into Doctor Who, Blake 7, you know, Space 1999, Thunderbirds, all of that as a child, I've got a picture of me preschool, like 4, reading a Doctor Who book. That's what I grew up on. It's so much part of my DNA. I am such a sci-fi geek. In fact, I went with Jason Schron, who runs Rapido Trains in Canada, and he's a big Star Trek fan. And I went to Comic-Con with him from Worley for like 3 or 4 hours. And he turns around to me halfway through and goes, "Kathy, you're a bigger geek than I am," because I knew all of the stuff there. And he only knew Star Trek. And so I'm like, I'm geeked out. Okay, I am a geek. So I've gone down a different road to railways, and I'm going to look at chat for a bit because I feel like I've talked a lot. But I mean, I'm going to talk when I look at chat, but I'll be responding to you. Right, where do we got to? Okay, Tamsin had her fun print. It's now we've been through the first. So here we go. Right, Amparo Ferrando Medina. Hello, hola. Okay, Tom, sorted. Samuel Beckett, just a few minutes in and we're already confessing our hoarding sins. How cathartic. Is there a collective noun for a group of online hoarders? Oh, desperate. Stuffed. Yeah, a stuffing. A hoarding of hoarders. So, Jaw21, what were these designed on? Blender. Any questions like that, really good to... Well, collective, says stating the obvious. Hoarders Anonymous, says Timber. David, it's a good book for those who want to make scenery. Oh, yeah, thank you, David. Yeah, my book. Just to plug it again. building model railroad scenery. You can get it on Amazon. If you spell my name right, I'm the only person with that surname on there, I think. So greetings, Herman Alvarez. Greetings from Chile. Nice to have you. Oh, and it's even got a link from Digger. Digger, you are a star. So hi, Matt. Don't worry. Nice to have you. I'm really bad at live streams at the moment. So if you're in the UK, use this link, says Digger. Right. Really disappointed the funding part has been dragged out for so long, says Digger. I am, but you know, as I said at the beginning, doors open and close for a reason. And when I started out in sort of faith almost that the content creation would work, I didn't really know what I was going to be doing. Well, I knew what I wanted to do, and I had this huge plan and a business plan and SWOT analysis and everything. And then it, you know, no plan survives contact with the enemy. Well, it didn't survive contact with real life. So there we go. Bill says, I remember the Pocket Planet conversation from a previous live stream. Shame it fell through. These things happen for a reason. Digger, it is, Bill. It would have been a great project, but they just seem to be monkeying around, dragging their feet. They can't realistically expect people to wait around for them. I don't think they are. I mean, I've not spoken to them for ages. They come back and tell me when there's funding or there's movement. But I basically said, you know, come back to me when you've got money now. And they're happy with that. And yes, Jaw 21, the Pocket Planet was Japan. Japan was going to be a major supplier. So, Bill Forrest, 3D Printing Corner and Ghana 3D Printing are two companies I get a lot of 3D printed scenic items from. There's definitely a market. That's good to know. Right, hang on. I just scrolled and lost everything. No, he wasn't Russian, David. Not at all. He asked if the backer was Russian. Nope. So Santo Lozano, love your Ahsoka and Vader diorama. Thank you. I literally carried them back from my mum's, and I was getting one of mum's friends to help carry them back because some of the dioramas are too big. And it was like, you know how you're watching someone in slow motion? We were putting the Halo diorama, it's very hard to get in at the moment because there's loads of boxes in the room, on top of a bookshelf. And she knocked one of the pints, she was holding it by the top. And I saw her go, oh, I'll just straighten it, to snap. I was like, ah! But it was like slow motion, I could hear her going, and I knew it was going to snap. It was awful. But a couple of the graves fell off and she picked one up and she put it down in a different place. I was like, no, the graves are exactly per the cartoon. Every single helmet is exactly as you see it on screen. Don't move it, I'll never get it in the right place. She was like, oh, weirdo. And then she tried to pick up the lightsaber. She says, oh, you dropped the lightsabers. I'm like, no, leave them. They're supposed to be there. Bless. So yes, but I do, they're some of my favourite dioramas. I'm never going to sell those. So Bill, it is messing people around, but it's not deliberate. They were caught out as well, the people who were running this, just as badly. They had faith in somebody who didn't then pull through. So Digger says, correct Bill, they did well to get Kathy on board with their idea, but to expect her to sit around and wait for them for over 2 years is ridiculous. They never expected that, to be honest. They did think they were going to be funded earlier. Oh, sorry, Timber's putting translation in. D&D is Dungeons and Dragons. Yes. It has wizards and spells in it, so it was bound to be bad. I'm joking. It's actually a lot of fun. Andy, Kathy, you really need to look at the tabletop wargaming market. There are a lot of us about. Andy, that's where I'm going. Yes. Right on track. Have you tried using sleds with your 3D printing in resin? I don't know what you mean by sleds. Sorry. Right on track. I don't. The building I'm talking about was a long wall that was about this long with stonework and windows, and it was hollowed slightly, I think. It may not even have been hollowed, but it was hollowed slightly. It was, you know, that long, and by the end of the year it was banana. I know some resins. I had one resin, it was a clear resin from Piopoli, and it was like bananas within a minute. It was awful. Oh yeah, Tamsin, the good old satanic panic of the early mid-80s. I remember it well. Yes, you're showing our age here, but yeah, I definitely remember it being preached against. Not at my church, can I hastily put in. My church is very normal people. So, Kathy, go on to Salute at the Excel Centre on the 22nd. I'm probably not, because I'm really up against it. We're trying to get my Kickstarter, but I'm thinking of going to UK Games Expo. Because I don't want to have to go all the way to Excel in London, which is like at least 60, 70 quid to get there and back. Whereas the NEC, where UK Game Expo is right next door to where I live. So it's 10 minutes. I can get my mum to drop me off, so I don't even have to pay parking. Seb, c'est moi. Hey from France, bonjour de France. Hello, welcome, bonjour. So Andy, yep, Salute would be a great show for Kath to see lots of different war games. It would be, and I might do it in a different year, but I'm actually away the weekend after at a friend's house, so I've just got loads going on around that time. I've also got a week's holiday in May, which is right in the middle of something else and in the middle of the Kickstarter, so that's going to be fun. My first holiday in 4 years, and it's just really badly timed. But hey. So Evan says, I'm in the middle of an indoor terrain project at the moment. Recently bought a 3D printer and I'm testing out printing some river pieces. Struggling with stringing. I think it might be too cold. You can do a stringing tower. I actually find the reason mine string, I print at 210, everything. I use Overture PLA, print at 210. But I found with eSun especially, the filament's slightly damp. I know it comes sealed with the little packets in, but they don't dehydrate it if it's already damp. So I bought myself some filament dryer boxes. They're Sunlu ones, but there's loads of other different brands. And I put my filament in that for the 8-hour timer before I use it. And I keep it in that. So even when I'm not using the filament, which to be honest, at the moment, I'm going through a roll every day and I've got 3 printers going. So I'm ordering it once or twice a week at the moment, filament, because I'm test printing so much. But the filament dryer got rid of all my stringing, practically. It's really good. Mark, you may talk a lot, but you do have a lot to say. I don't see anyone all week as well now I work from home. So I have to bottle it all up and it comes out on the live stream. And then people say I talk too fast. And I'm aware I talk too fast. You can slow things down on YouTube if I'm talking too fast, just so you know. Evan, I did one test piece when the printer was first set up in the living room. I then moved it into the conservatory and that's where the trouble started. I think that's humidity, perhaps. Timber says, selling 3D prints for railways is a tough gig. Ask someone who knows. I know, Timber, and looking at sort of the work you put in, I can see why. So Tamsin's with temperature humidity. Oh, Digger's still plugging my book. Thank you. Digger, you make some good stuff. Timber's excellent details. So Timber, just a plug for Timber stuff, he does make some really, really good stuff. If you want to get some, message him. Tamsin, usually humidity makes the filament moist. Yeah, I can be, my room in there is sort of 40-degree humidity according to the little sensor. It's not at all humid, considering I live in the UK and it's raining, because it's got so much heat going on all the time from 3 filament printers running non-stop 24/7. But I find those dry boxes are wonderful, except I haven't got the shelf up for one and I've not got stringing on that because I've pre-dried it always. Evan, Tamsin, I didn't think that could definitely be a culprit. Any tips on getting rid of it? Dryer boxes. So Bill's laughing, there's a lot of people around like that. Seb Somar says, I know your lava diorama. News for you, I've got another lava planned. It's going to be a 3D printed one this time, so it's going to be really cool. Evan, buy a filament dryer. See, Tamsin knows what she's talking about. The Elboss Easy Dry is good for that. I've got the Sunlu filament dryer as well, so there's loads out there. Hi, Stephen says, hey Kathy, did you ever see a book called Great Space Battles? It was illustrated with sci-fi paintings, one of which was a guy with a jetpack who looked like a Master Chief ancestor. I haven't. Sounds interesting. I may have to look for it. Jaw21 just started learning Blender Donut when you posted yours on IG where you're already familiar with it. Yeah, Blender's a steep learning curve, but it's shortcuts and I use it every day. So for me, using other things becomes a hardship now. So I never touch Fusion 360 because the shortcuts are different and it just blows my mind. I can't cope. So Timbersurf says sled is a thicker, wider base for resin. So Timber, my problem is it's not warping at the time, it's warping in the 6 months afterwards. So it's all been printed and cured, but I guess I'm not curing inside because it's hollowed. So over time, I actually normally print with clear resin to get rid of this, but this was done on my big print with grey. And I think over time, those hollowed bits may be warped because they're not cured on the inside. But if Timber's saying a raft, I've got supports on my resin. So I always raft them, by the way. Yeah, but I don't understand. It's the supports where it's touching it. Anyway. Right on track. Give Google search really can help with straight lines. Americans use them for making box plots. But my problem isn't at the time of printing. My problem is later. So when I printed it and cured it, and for the first month, this was straight. And then it warped over time. And actually, I've got a really good way of supporting now that gets rid of the warping in the way I support it. But it's later. And David says, I find that resin seems to build uneven stresses in production curing, especially in flat objects like walls, which can cause them to bend. Once I've tidied up a bit, I'll go back to experimenting. Yeah, we all need to tidy up a bit, it seems like. So Andy Shaw says, not much wargaming at Games Expo. The other game show will be Partisan at Newark, 21st of May. So the reason I'm going to Games Expo is it's down the road. And I only play one game at the moment, and it's Star Wars Legion, and Asmodee are probably going to be there. So I might get to see Shatterpoint, which is coming out on the 2nd of June. So I'd be quite intrigued to go just to see the Shatterpoint come out, because I'm going to get that. So Tamsin, it's more board game and RPG. Good to know. Anyway, I've asked. Someone else had said salute, and I'd looked at it, but actually I'm just away too much in April. It's just, and I've got too much on with launching a Kickstarter in April to fit it in this year. If there was one in the autumn, I'd probably go. Digger, if you think Kathy is talking too fast, just listen quicker. Or slow me down. Ravenson. Sorry, I'm from Germany and I don't think you're talking too fast. Some other YouTuber are talking too slow. Unfortunately, I cannot play the video with double speed. I do 1.5 sometimes for slow talkers, I will admit. Oh, and thank you so much, Digger, for putting up Timber's. I didn't know what the reference was, but Digger's put up Timber's railway printing, 3D printing there. So go check it out, folks. Mark, I had the book too. Great book. I think it's in the box around here. I've got rid of a lot of books. I'm getting rid of a lot of my railway ones to Anoraks. They're all New Haven, so you know you won't be that excited. But I don't need that many books. I have like shelves and shelves of railway books of very obscure bits of the New Haven, and I'm probably only ever going to do 1 or 2 again. So I'm going to keep the areas that really interest me and get rid of all the rest. Sorry, with more than double speed. Yeah, it is a problem, Raverson. Right. So Mark says he believes Chris Foss, who I don't actually know, is one of the artists in the Great Space Battles. Seb, a diorama of He-Man or She-Ra. I've never watched He-Man and She-Ra. I'm just the wrong era, I think, for it. So probably not, just because I've never watched it. So Andy, Tamsin says to Andy, Partisan would be a good one to go to, but Hammerhead might have more of the games she'd like, but there's a long wait until the next one. Anyway, I'm just going to go back to talking about, so having looked and found there's a market for tabletop games, my first thought was a lot of the games I see do tiles. They do dungeon tiles. So I was thinking I needed to design tiles and everything had to be modular. And I actually got some RPG books. So I got Stargrave. Some of them are online for free and some I bought the books. Stargrave and Starfinder, I don't know. And Dead Zone and a few others like that. And very much, some of them are 3-inch, some of them are 2 or 4-inch, and they all have their differences. And then I thought I'm going to play a game. And actually the game I decided to play was Star Wars Legion, because I was on a Star Wars chronological rewatch, and Legion seemed like fun because it was Star Wars and they have the clones. And I am such a sucker for the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars era is my era of Star Wars. I can do Mandoverse as well, but actually the original trilogies, I'm not so bothered about. Clone Wars, if you haven't seen them, you won't get it. I love the Clone Wars, absolutely adore them. So I'm playing loads of mini clones. And I started to play Legion. And I'm like, oh, actually, they don't use terrain at all like I thought they did. And I got the Multiverse Ord Ferrum Kickstarter. I bought it and printed almost everything on it. And I'm going to have to give some of this stuff away soon because I've actually got too much stuff. I've got a local shop, though, who needs some more terrain. So, Joe, you might be getting some. But yeah, and a lot of that is small buildings because that's what people want. They want small buildings. So I was thinking about all this and mulling it over. So Kickstarter has a marketplace. My Mini Factory has a marketplace. For $25 a month, you get a shop, access to tribes, which is like Patreon. This is as a creator. You can run Frontiers on them, and they will do Pledge Manager for Kickstarter. So you don't have to worry about anything. They will literally take your Kickstarter files and deliver them very securely, very easily. It's an awful website in many ways. It's got ads, which is frustrating because they're full page ads. It's really confusing to find anything, but it is the main repository for tabletop gaming at the moment. So I'm like, okay, My Mini Factory. And I've spoken to them, and I had a relationship with them for my sponsored videos, but all those people have left. So there's definitely ways now I've got to deliver it. I've got Kickstarter, I've got My Mini Factory, because I've got a Gumroad shop. And I did a diorama of Beggar's Canyon, which was in Mando, which is what I did, but it was also the pod race scene from the first Star Wars. I have never sold a single one. So I don't think the diorama market is existent, but the tabletop gaming one is. I've done tabletop gaming for a bit. I've done Legion. I'm going to look at Shatterpoint as well, which is like Marvel Crisis Protocol. I've been looking at some of the other RPG games. So I've got all these ideas floating around. And what I want is to create something that isn't monthly constrained. So I looked at doing Patreon and morphing my Patreon that exists into delivering 3D prints, which is what a lot of people do. So I follow Darkfire Designs. He does Star Wars Legion figures, beautiful work. Hi Ty, if you're watching, he's a really great guy. And I got into them because one of them said, we really respect what you do as a content creator and we want to give you a free set of files. You don't have to put them on a video. We're not asking that. If you want to just print with them personally, go ahead and do that. And, you know, which set do you want? And there were 3 options. I was just blown away by their just generosity. And actually, whenever I've used them, I've bought them. I have the original ones, but actually I bought a lot of them because as a creator, I understand how important it is to have money coming in. So I actually am now part of their Patreon and I joined their Discord. And since I got into Legion, and I've printed some of their designs and I really like them. They're not as chunky as a lot of tabletop games, which are like squished and big hands and all this sort of stuff. And I mean, clones are easier. They don't have that many faces. But they do all the normal ones, like they've got an Ahsoka that's really good. And there's a lot of other really, really great Star Wars Legion artists out there that do 3D prints. And I've got all the original boxes for the cards. So these are just alternates and extra units almost. So I'm on a journey, and one thing I didn't want to do was go back to a monthly grind. I did a video for print, well, with a Print Minis design. Again, I bought it, wasn't linked to them at all. And I can see from some of the sort of channels, podcasts I've listened to, that people are burning out fairly regularly in the 3D print market. And a lot of them are doing minis, and they feel this burning requirement to produce more and more minis. I mean, I look how many Darkfire Designs did last month. They're all designed by one guy, and he must have done about 60 or 70 models, which I got for free once I bought the first, it's not for free, but I got them all for my Patreon amount, which is something like a tenner. So for that amount, I got 60 or 70 models. He did Mando March, which had like 21 models in it. And it's just a shocking amount of models. And a lot of these guys are producing huge numbers of models. Now, I know clones are fairly similar and it's reposing, you might argue. But actually, all the Mandos were one-off sculpts. There's a lot of work. And some of it is just taking time. So, having done a weekly YouTube for 2 or 3 years back in the day, I didn't want to go to the monthly grind where I end up working Christmas Day because I'm behind. Kickstarters enable you to go big and go less often. So you can do bigger projects with more in them, but you can space it out. And it's still only me here, so I don't have anybody else to rely on. I've not got other employees. So I decided on Kickstarter. So we've got a journey. We've got content creation not working. I need to find a marketplace I can sell in because I actually, we've got the job that didn't happen for 18 months. I need to find a marketplace to sell in. I've got it. It's terrain. I probably should go to Salute, but we'll see. We'll see. I might go down. We'll see. And actually, someone else had mentioned it to me. I've been to Warhammer World in Nottingham, so I have an idea. I understand how all this sort of works, but I'm not that great on the rules of, you know, getting out terrain yet. So I'm still learning. But I wanted to do sci-fi. So John's advice, go small. I haven't. I decided to do modular landing pads. Now I haven't rendered very many up yet. So let's just go look at the photo. So what I have done is I've got 2 rings. One is a desert ring, which you can see here, and there's lower and upper levels. This is from above and it's both levels. And I'm going to have to just go back to that one and just stop it for a sec. When you stop it, it just goes black, which is really frustrating. And this is an upper level one. So let me start that again. I got distracted by all of the problems with tech. So let me just restart. So I've got a set of rings which look like Tatooine. There wasn't originally what I did. It's actually one of the last things I did. But I started off, right, here we go. This is a modular set. There's a base, there's a loose top that you wedge on, and then there's sides. I did this as a standalone. You can actually, I'm going to put end caps so you can create a sort of single building if you want that's slightly curved. You can make the big ring. It's actually massive. It's a bit too big for Star Wars Legion, but you could use parts of it to make barricades. You can make it half height so you don't have as much on there. This is my old Traveller one redone in 3D print, and oh, we're really out of order. Thank you, random Photoshop moment. This is the upper level only of the desert one, so you can just pop that on top. This is an example of a modular hexagon one with one of the side options, which is triangles just stuck on the side, and you can see there's legs underneath. This is the upper level of the desert one on a standalone base, so you could use some of those options as just a little standalone base. This is the lower level, and there's a rim around the top that you can put a Legion scale mini, which is, you'll get a 30mm base in there. This is a Bespin inspired one from Empire Strikes Back, and I've tried not to be rigidly this is a Star Wars one, but because I've been watching a lot of Star Wars, you've seen a lot of that come out. And actually I designed the sci-fi version of this a month before I designed the desert one, and that's because I didn't want to do the sci-fi. I didn't want to do the desert one because it's like two being done, but in this instance the sci-fi one isn't rendered and the desert one is. So you can see there's a huge variety from some very standard Star Wars ones. That one there, the Saverna one, is actually inspired by Mass Effect. It's from the Mass Effect art book actually, that particular panel style. And I've had great fun going through creating, and I put in the ones for the system earlier, and I'm going to be one of these annoying people that I'm going to put it to me, and I'm going to see if I change the photo slideshow. Let's see if I can change this again and just get rid of it. Oops. Let's add files. It's not adding all of the files, so let me just open those. Okay, let's see what this does. Right, here we go. I can pause it. Right, let me pause it. So this is the system that I've designed. This is the simple system. There's a base tile, easy to print, it's hollow. Oh, can we go back? Yep. Base tile, easy to print. There's little wedges that go on top. If you want to throw it around, you really need to glue them on, because over time those wedges get loose. There's no clip on them. I couldn't get a clip in on the size. There's big proper open lock. This is a standard for terrain. Open lock clips. Can I pause it? Anyway, and those clip in, and then there's sides. This is actually a segmented side. This just does not want to stay up whenever I click. There's mini clips, which are 60% size clip, which I've created from the open lock, because quite frankly open lock is so big and chunky, and then you can just plug some extra sides in this particular version, but some of the sides are just one piece. There we go. Right, let's see what people have been saying whilst this goes through and you all have a look at it. Right. Tamsin, stresses over time of uneven prints can cause warping. The trick is to ensure the resin is very dry after cleaning, then cure for a long time, but with the support on it so it's set straight. But it's straight for months afterwards, and then it's not straight, and that's what's causing me the confusion. And then Timber says sometimes you just have to make things thicker to stop warping. Yeah, I guess it could be that. So Stephen says the book came out in the late 1970s. Another similar one was called Mechanismo, which I wouldn't recommend because it contains some content which would be perceived as distasteful. Thank you. Tamsin P does amazing Starships with Second Dynasty that I've seen her prints of, so she does loads of really good stuff. And I know her from Second Dynasty, just to show. So there we are, really cool. Bill, the laughing and Vulcan salute was in response to you saying you were practically weaned on sci-fi. There's a lot of us that were. Yes. It's definitely a good part. And I read so much. I've actually started reading again in the last month. And I'm on some Star Wars books. But I'm trying to get Heir of the Empire and stuff like that done, ready for the Ahsoka series, which I'm so stoked for. Ahsoka is a new series coming out on Star Wars in August. And she's my favourite Star Wars character. So there we go. So, Robinson says, when your resin parts are warping, heat them a little bit with a hairdryer and you can correct them. I think my worry was, okay, the reason I mention it is I'm designing this for FDM printing, and that's because FDM is more robust. It's dimensionally accurate in a way that resin isn't. It doesn't warp over time. You don't have stinky leaking whatevers, and I can run 3 printers 24/7 and not get a headache. I get a headache from resin printing. So for me, this has become a really so I'm printing for FDM. I need to push the tolerances a bit more. I made everything a bit too chunky to start with and have been making it finer over time, but it's really, really much easier and more robust for the kind of prints. I can drop these, and I regularly drop them. If I drop a resin building, it will shatter, especially if I cure it for a long time. It will just shatter. No matter how much tenacious you put in there, if you drop it onto a stone floor, which is what my kitchen is, it's a goner. Right, Andy says he's talking to Tamsin about war games. Tamsin likes Art de la Guerre, Ancient and Medieval is my main game. I also play a fair bit of Lardle stuff. Okay, all games I don't know. So Bill, Timber, I do believe you recently got a man with a chainsaw from you. Yes, probably. Does some great stuff. Timber, Bill, I don't do figures, just accessories under the Tim scale banner. Right. Bill, Chris Foss is utterly amazing. Golden era of sci-fi illustration. Also Jim Burns, Danny Flynn, and of course Ian McHugh, who's the well-known one. Andy. Okay, so they're talking about Art de la Guerre. Not heard of that one, so I've looked it up. Just completing Gladiator Arena for Jugular. Wow. Okay, so Bill didn't buy from Timber, but he should have, because Timber stuff is good. Tamsin, I'm also very into Strontium Dog and Judge Dredd games from Warlord. Interesting. I saw Pacific Rim, the RPG, earlier today, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. I love Pacific Rim the Black. I like the original movies, but I did like the Black as well, which was a cartoon. So Andy likes Judge Dredd and lucky enough to be in Nottingham, so Warlord Games is the nearest hobby store. That is so cool. My nearest is Battleground Gaming in Acots Green. So Tamsin just got the Black Wars expansion and pre-ordered the Wave 2 figures, Block Wars expansion. So they're all talking Judge Dredd. Very exciting. Timber, maybe I should have a go and follow Kathy and design some spaceships. Oh, there's some great demand for spaceships out there, I think. So Tamsin says, I bought a load of MDF kits from TT Combat and a mix of resin and 3D printed scatter bits. So Bill says, I use items designed for gaming in my build, although I'm not a gamer. Actually, Bill, that's how I started out. It's a slippery slope. Andy, I have an idea to build 2 blocks vertically. Timber saying very Star Wars like. I'm guessing you mean the designs. Everyone's asking Timber to expand his boundaries. So Andy's just looking at TT Combat. He's spot on what he's looking for. Timber says, I can't say I'm a sci-fi geek, but I'm a sci-fi fan. You don't have to be a geek. Just a fan's enough. So Bill's done TT Combat is the one I've used in the past. Right. Tamsin, Andy Shaw, Great Minds, was thinking of getting some TT Combat's high-rise buildings use them to do face a big backboard, but I've just found some 3D files I could think of instead. Okay. So, loads of people talking about gaming. Bill Forrest, Snap, same here. I read and watch it, but I don't game it. Jedi Fallen Order. This is another thing that's coming out. April 22nd might be Salute, and I'm away the 28th. 28th, Jedi Survivor comes out. I so want to play that. Oh, really looking forward to it. It's a video game, folks, for those who don't know. Timber, for those who don't own their own 3D printer, if you buy Kathy's design, there are some reasonable companies out there that will print them for you other than Shapeways. That's true. And also, I'll probably sell a merchant tier, so you might find some people buy the designs to sell on Etsy. Andy says, Tamsin, I buy core resin vehicles, all the prices are good. Tamsin says, add on some 3D printed accessories to make them more sci-fi and they should do the trick. Perfect. Bill says Shapeways are expensive. They weren't when I started, well, they probably were, but they were the only place when I started getting into 3D printing. So Tamsin says, I got a load of sci-fi sunburnt cars from Antenna Cities before they shut up shop. And Bill's bought from them as well. So, right. David, making things thicker with resin might cause other problems like spilling and leaking resin. Maybe, and also weight and cost. So it's all a bit of a mix in there. Tamsin, I'd love to know if anyone bought their masters and moulds. Oh, this is Antenna Cities. So, anyway, they're still talking about these things. Andy, Kathy, when you're designing stuff, how do you avoid treading on other companies' IPs? So, I might mention that these are from Bespin or whatever, but they're inspired by, they're not direct copies of. Actually, Bespin one's probably the nearest one. But that Tatooine one that's up now, it's inspired by Tatooine, but it's my own design. It's not Tatooine per se. The detailing is wrong for Tatooine. It can stand in if you paint it as desert, but it just doesn't quite look like that. And there's some tweaks I need to do. That door doesn't print that well because it's on its side when it's printed and things like that. You don't see any shops like that there. The canopies are very there. So if you wanted to, you could create a Tatooine circle from that using the ones that are more like Star Wars. But some of them are just completely my own designs and nothing like it. So I'm inspired by, and I will pick elements from games, but I try not to directly copy them because that's IP. And the answer is you never call it. So I would never ever sell the one that looks like a Bespin one as the Bespin one. That's where it came from. That's where the design idea came from. But actually I would always sell it as, Cloud landing pad or Sky City landing pad or something like that. I'd never sell it as anything. And I'll just say there are designs. I play Star Wars Legion and it's designed with that in mind. 28 to 35 mil, so you could easily put 28 mil on here as well, because landing pads are kind of scaleless to some extent, and you don't really have that problem. But I will say it's inspired by Halo, it's inspired by Titanfall 2, it's inspired by Mass Effect, and it's inspired by sort of Star Wars because I watch a lot of it, but it's not actually a strict copy. Now, some of them at the beginning I did do almost like, this looks just like this, partly because they're recognisable for people. I need the Kickstarter to go well. So certainly this Kickstarter with the Bespin one and the Tatooine one, I did it as a sci-fi one, as I said to start with, because I didn't want to do Tatooine. But I need this to sell. So at the end of the day, Star Wars sells. So although I'll never say that it's Star Wars IP and it's only ever inspired by, it's not a direct copy of anything there, it is definitely trying to call back to those IPs because they will sell. People want them for games of those IPs. As a result, I need to make sure that they do work with them. And that's basically where I am on it. It looks close, but it isn't necessarily identical. That's just kind of where you have to go with it, I think. Loads of people, Disney are funny. They don't seem to come after people for they don't seem to come after people for doing it in the same way if you're just close but no cigar. It's just really, it's funny. But some of these are completely my own design. The triangles here, I've not seen that. This hex, all my own design. Nothing in this is calling to anything. This one here, very, very Star Warsy, the desert ring, the canopy, especially in the colouring. This is the lower layer, but Tatooine never has a rim like this around the top. And actually you can see that I haven't done the top for the tower yet. But this one, very classic. So it's a mix. It really is a mix, and I do need to work on it. And I can't work out, because there's actually another 20 photos in there that this just does not seem to want to do. And I don't understand why it won't do the 20 of them, why it will only do the 5. It's very bizarre. But there we go. But let me just go and show you the movie that I've done. So I'm going to see if I can I pause this? Really can't pause it. There's not even an option to pause it. It's just a movie. Right, I need to click that. It's just come apart. So I started designing circles and squares, basically. That's where I started with this. And then circles with walkways. And there's 4 different circle sizes. You've seen all of them here. This is the largest one. And it's about 12 inches across. So it's still not huge. And if you want to make it bigger, you can cut that circle in half and put in extension so it becomes not really an oval. The ovals are a pain because of the angles. Now these are quite big, but I'm going to make it that you could make this into an S shape sort of street if you wanted, or something like that. So I'm going to make some options up with the desert one that isn't a circle, and I'm going to leave the sci-fi. You can see the 2 layers there. You can see I'm only partly printed. I printed a lot of the wrong sides of the doors for some reason. And what I found was this is all on open lock, so it's all clips. I mentioned the system a while ago, and it's actually quite floppy when you've got big pieces, and that's fine when it's going on the ground. If you want this to go on the ground, you can just put that on the ground and go away with it. But if you want to put it on legs, it's not really working. So I built a girder system underneath. That girder actually doesn't go on legs. That's just a girder for strength if you want to put girders in. But I put a girder system, and it's on the ones with the taller ones and the bigger ones effectively. And this is an extension one. You can see there's the circles, and I've got some panel designs in the middle, just random panel tiles. And you can see that there's a base and a tile top. This is in pieces. That's actually part of a ship sat on top. I'm extending it because it's not big enough for the ship. So it's got some prints. And there's some very simple ones that go straight on the floor. You can put legs underneath. But the point is, you start with a base. There's hexes, circles and squares, and you build stuff up. There's ramps available for you to come up and down. That's a very classic Galaxy Farfar. I think that's called Galaxy, that tile. And then there's sides. So you put a top on and then you put sides on, and there's pipes, there's handrails. That one is based on a shot in Mandalore from Star Wars. It's the top of a building. And then this one is actually for a diorama in Mandalore. So there's a couple that are for dioramas in Mandalore that I was doing for dioramas, so they were designed. One set will go into the into a future one, but that they were designed for dioramas, so they are actually very, very accurate, because when I do a diorama, I want it to be accurate. Hey ho. So there we go. Let's see what's been happening in chat. Okay. So Andy, it is a problem. You don't want to tread on IP. You do want it to be your own. And one of the reasons for moving into sci-fi, I've actually got a lot of ideas. I've got a lot of things from real life I want to copy and put into sci-fi. So the Nakagin Tower in Japan has little cubes with a hole at one end, and I'm going to make a replica tower of it. And it's very inspired by it. It's now been knocked down. And it was a 70s sci-fi looking building. And I'm going to make that into probably the hotel that goes in the spaceport when I do the spaceport. And I haven't spoken about the whole inspiration for this really. So let me just go back to the photo slideshow. In the background, you can see this little star system. I'm waving my mouse like mad at it, but you probably won't see that. In the background, and there is the blank one here so I can talk about it at some point, you can see a star system. That is the Severna star system, and it has a number of planets on it. And the main one is Severna, but each one has an individual main, just like the solar system. So we've got I can't remember if it's Corix. I think it's Corix, the lava planet. And guess what? My next Kickstarter after this one is going to be a lava factory. If you've played Battlefront 2, there's a lava factory in it on Sullust in Star Wars. And I'm really excited by the idea of doing lava and lava, just lava generally. So I'm going to do a whole board where you can do a plane of just lava with a light underneath. And if you print in clear filament and then paint the rest of it black, you will actually get the effect of light coming up through the lava. Just need to make sure it's nice and squished on the tops. So we'll see. So that's really exciting. And what I'm going to do is each one of the Kickstarters that I do will be set on a planet or a moon. So, you know, if I wanted to be, I can do an asteroid. You can see there's 2 asteroid belts, an asteroid mining facility. Or I could go to one of the outer worlds, which is being terraformed, because that's the thing. And there could be some habitats, like you can have the icosphere sort of domes, or you could have habitats like Mass Effect Andromeda has a lot of habitats that were in my mind, and you see them very much. It's a classic sci-fi thing. I have this sort of like habitat city made up of stacked habs, and, you know, Ready Player One has something similar. But, you know, Mass Effect Andromeda is where I'm really going. And they'd be white and colour-coded and slopey and look really cool. So each of these planets in the background that you still can't see my mouse waving over when I move it, each of those planets will have a Kickstarter. And it will become very much all around the Severna star system. So I'm going to do Severna itself is a very built-up planet. So, but much like here, you have cities and non-cities. So it's going to have a spaceport. It may have a cyberpunk-esque city. It will have industrial sectors. It will have research sectors. It can have mines. And then for the different environments around, I can go out to the moons, out to the other planets. I can do a gas giant. And then that Bespin landing pad that I was inspired by, I actually see that being in the gas giant. Is a floating city there where they collect the gas, and it will be a gas mining facility. So I can see that. There'll be an ocean planet. So for those of you who've seen Star Wars prequels and Clone Wars, Camino has a lot of ocean things. But I've got to do this so it sells. So it's got to call back to Camino so people from Star Wars can go, oh, I can do a Camino board for Star Wars Legion, and this will be perfect for that. This will be the thing that I want for that. But it has to also appeal to people who aren't into Star Wars, who may want to use it for 40k or for other game designs. So it's never going to be locked to Star Wars or whatever game I'm playing. It's always going to be a generic sci-fi, and there's going to be a mix for people calling from different. But it's hard sci-fi. I am not doing grimdark skulls on things. There we go. There's the one that you can see that has the whole of the star system there, the Severna star system, floating around with Severna the star in the middle, and the little dot in the middle of it is, I think, a radial that I need to get rid of. But there's Severna in the centre, looking really, really cool. Very much, I designed that in Blender. All the planets are actual circles, you know, spheres, and then I put a line art on it, and it takes forever to open and to render, but it comes out actually looking like a blueprint. So it's dark blue with creamy white sort of lines on it. It's a really cool design, but it's actually designed as a proper solar system model. So the idea is that is a series of Kickstarters over time that will be really useful for anybody doing tabletop games in the sci-fi, but not really aimed at the Warhammer world. I know Warhammer is the biggest game, and by not aiming at it, I'm shooting myself in the head, but they are so litigious. I don't want anything that remotely looks like it's got a skull on it. Or people will go, oh, that's a Warhammer, and I'll be like, I haven't played it, I don't watch it, it's not Warhammer inspired. Because Warhammer do get the stuff from other sci-fi as well. So there we go. Let's just see who else has been saying things. Timber, the sci-fi bases are cool. Great idea to make them modular. I wish you a wrench well. Thank you, Timber. I need it to make money, to be brutally honest. So I wanted it out this Thursday, but I've not got it out to the test printers yet. And to be honest, you don't issue the files till about 2 weeks after the Kickstarter ends. The Kickstarter's going to run for 4 weeks, I think. So that's 6 weeks. So even when I finish this, I've got 6 weeks. But then I've got a massive project coming in the middle of it that's a video that I really want to be involved with. It's a really cool subject. I'm really invested in it and I want to do it. So it's a sponsored video. I mean, not in that I'm getting paid, I'm getting product, but I really want to do it. And it's also NDA'd, so I can't talk about it yet. But I'm really excited for that. So I want to get that done, but I've got a week's holiday and a weekend away. And I'm like, ooh, that's a lot of days out of that period that I've got. And it needs to go live sort of every other week in May. I'm doing 3 videos for them. So every other week in May. So that gets me to the start of June, really, doesn't it? And I've got a huge amount to build for it. I've got a lot of stuff. But it actually feeds into one of my future Kickstarters. So the design work that I do on it won't be wasted. It will be reused in a future Kickstarter. So there we go. Inspired by timber. That's what you have to do. Because actually we all get inspiration from what we watch. You know. Bye, Bill. I think you've gone. But hey. You know, it is, though. It's one of those things that you might be inspired by real life. There's some really great Eastern European buildings. I'd like to do circular buildings a lot because I love circular buildings. And there's a stilted Eastern European one in the middle of nowhere that's a sanatorium for kids from the communist era. And it's stunningly, and I would just copy that almost because then it just works. So, Dual21, what sort of spec age is your Mac and do you render in cycles or EV? So this Mac is 5 years old now, maybe. I put extra RAM in, so I think it's got 32 gig of RAM in it. And I render in cycles because I couldn't get the lights to work in EV. So I render in cycles. It looked much better in cycles as well. You get a better light than in EV. And then I shove it into Photoshop and just do a little bit of an S-curve on the stuff and put the backgrounds in. And I was trying to get the backgrounds in Blender, but wasn't working. And then someone, I can't remember who it was, Blasted Samaflange, said, oh, I put mine out in PNG with a transparent background. So if you don't put anything in the background, it just comes out as clear. And then I put the background in Blender. I'm like, in Photoshop. I'm like, I could kiss you. That is just amazing. So yeah, that's what I do now. Tamsin says these all look great. I've actually got so many more designs. So you've seen the ones I'll put the movie on again. You've seen the ones I've printed and you can see just how modular they are. There are walkways coming off them. There are different sides. So there's about 8 different sides. But the segmented ones, that gap's annoying me. And there's about 6 different legs. But the segmented one that I was showing in the hexes on the renders, it's not printed off yet. They actually, and they were in the I've called it the recipe, the sort of broken up how it all fits together with clips one. But if you look at that and you push them in, you can actually change the outside. And I've got about 6 railings there. So there's a huge number of sides, plus some standalone buildings for those people who don't want to necessarily be too modular. So these are based on it's a very Star Wars thing to have a round landing pad that people land in the middle of. But I'm going to make them that you can use them as other buildings, especially if I put an end cap on. So then it starts to look like a proper little building, slightly curved, and I can do some sinuous streets. I'm not printing the upper layer on the desert, I decided. It will be in render, but I'm just running out of time. And it's about a 9 to 12 hour print to do an upper layer. And if I do an upper layer and there's 12 of them, it somehow on the way the timing works, I often only get 1 or 2 in a day. So it just puts everything back a week. And I still want to paint all these before the Kickstarter goes live. So I have some photos of them painted up. And I'm just going to spray paint them and put a wash on. That's all I'm going to do. And there'll be a video on, I painted X number of models for a Kickstarter in a day. Something like that, you know. So there we go. It could be a desert fortress timber. It could be. It's certainly very fortressy, and you could put men on the top, which is actually part of the idea. You can put men at the top and go round. Hi John, sorry you're late, don't worry, you're here, that's what counts. Thank you, I'm glad you think they look good. So Psycho, sorry, Sicko sound a bit weird. Psycho looks really cool, thank you. I know it's not what I normally put on this channel in some ways, but it's actually where I'm probably going to be going more of. Stephen Cameron, if you've ever watched Ancient Aliens, they had some interesting theories about the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Can't help noting a similarity to Kathy's Traveller Spaceport. Was that in the basis? No. It's, I can't remember which, Solarium from Mass Effect. They have buildings with that panel design, which is 2 notches out, top and bottom, and some lines on it. They have that as an art picture. I don't even remember it from the game. I think it was one of the multiplayer environments that I never played. Oh, they don't have multiplayer in Mass Effect. I don't remember it, but anyway, it's from the game, and it really resonated with me. And then the vents were there as well, but it looked completely different though, because theirs were vertical and mine have gone on sides. And I've actually got a building that's off camera that I've done with that all the way up the side, which matches the one that's on the floor down here exactly, that I designed, and that was my own design, but just using that panel as an inspiration. And obviously I made it out of styrene before, but now I'm making it in 3D print. Psycho, an idea for an alternative to printing clear filament is printing moulds for resin. Yeah, but I need to be able to sell an STL that someone can print and replicate, and I don't want to go down the physical product route. So that would then require someone to buy the moulds and do the resin. Whereas if I can say to them, oh, print this in clear filament and paint it like this, and you can get this effect, then people will buy it, because they can get that effect. And if people don't want a light from underneath, they can just print it in normal and then paint the normal oranges and reds on that they paint for lava, which I think would be just as acceptable. So I think it's everything. What I'm finding a lot of the moment, I go, oh, I could just add this and it'd be really cool. I'm like, but someone else has to be able to do that and copy it. So everything I print, everything I design, somebody has to have a reasonable chance of being able to do at home. So it becomes not a game of what I can do, it's a game of what can I sell that other people can do. So people say to me, oh, you can put a 0.6 nozzle on it, it'll print faster. I'm like, yeah, but the average punter, I have to design for an Ender 3 small build plate, even though I've got bigger printers myself, because that's the standard build plate. It's not even as big as my Prusa. I have to design for an Ender 3 build plate, because that's probably the most common printer out there. And I have to design for normal PLA filament on a 0.4 nozzle, because that is what people have and that is what people are going to use. And if it can't print on that, I can't do it. So it becomes limiting. I also need to do support free. So this, well, actually that was a mistake. This one, I did the wiring and I put it with this side to print down, and it's a rough print because I did it printing that way. But I know if I turn it this way, it will print much better. So I won't reprint it, but it's on the side here because it's on the snagging list of things I need to just change the orientation on the print STL. So when someone loads it up, it prints in the optimum orientation for their printer, so they can just press print, because that's what people expect from 3D print designs on Kickstarter. Something they just load onto a build plate and print. Yeah. So yes, I'd love to be able to do it in resin. It'd get expensive, I think, though, because actually I'm going to do, at least, if I'm going to do it for Legion, I'll do a skirmish size board, which is 3 foot by 3 foot in lava, but with the option, because it's a 6 foot by 3 foot. So I'll probably do a 3 by 3, which is the common skirmish size of lava tiles. And then people can double it up to do the other end, or I could do more. We'll see. We'll see how many I do. But if you're looking at it at that size, that's a lot of resin to cast for people. John Crooks, I can see a new manufacturing company on the scene in the future, Millet Models. I think it's just going to say it's Kathy Millet Modelling. I did have a debate about not having a girl's name, but when I chatted to my manufacturer, they said my following was too large and I need to stick with a name. Yeah, I hope it's not a black hole, John. John said the dot in the middle is a black hole. I think it's actually a radial empty, just to be really annoying, because they come up, but they have their... And I've got them hidden, but they're not hidden in render, so they appear. So Andy Shaw says, the new game on the block is Xenos Rampant by Osprey Games. Loads of people using old GW minis, so a big market for you there. I've not even heard of it, Andy. And I looked at the top 5 selling games for tabletop minis. and it was released last week, and someone linked it on Star Wars Legion Discord, and it went something like 40k, Age of Sigmar, Legion, X-Wing, and one of the others. I don't know what the other one was. Warcry or something, I don't know, whatever it was. So put it this way, if I'm designing and it's going to hit a market that does well, Legion and the new Shatterpoint actually would be some of the best, because I think Shatterpoint will do well eventually. Shatterpoint, I've been looking at the stuff that came out at Adepticon. They've got a stream tomorrow from Celebration, Star Wars Celebration in London, and what can I say? The amount of stuff coming out for it, and it's all the figures I love. They're even doing the Night Sisters, they're doing Savage, they're doing all the stuff that people want in Legion that hasn't come. So there's a lot of, it's a minis game and it still has terrain. So, but it's slightly bigger bases, so it just needs to be slightly bigger, and loads of walkways and things, because it's got more height in it. So I think Shatterpoint will be big. But really, if you want to hit a market that's going to be big, I hear a lot of people doing Dead Zone, and I hear a lot of people doing sort of, I've actually got the PDF for Space Station Zero. So I think there's a lot of stuff out there. But once you get off those top 5, it becomes, I don't know what's down beneath that level for what's big. So I'll have a look out for Xenos Rampant, but I'm definitely, by aiming at sort of 28mm to 35mm hard sci-fi, I'm not aiming at any one particular game, but Legion's obviously the one I play, so it's the one I know best as to what people want. I'm making it for everybody, is what I'm trying to say. Joel Mercier, hello from France. Bonjour. And Bill's back. What did he miss? I think I just talked, Bill. A lot, really. Professor Christensen, hello from Australia. Oh, Craftenstein, sorry. I really need to get better glasses, don't I? Hello. I just wish you could make the font bigger on this so I could actually read it when I'm sat back. But hi. And then loads of highs. John, I like the clippability of how you've designed those two, Kathy. So the clip is open lock. I actually have a license from them. It's free, but it's Printable Scenery design, that clip, and it's what an awful lot of people do. What I've done is divorce the top from the bottom. So you can just change the tops on your landing pads if you want to change the tops. So if you want to put blast shields in, I've got some blast shields that pop up, and some hatches and things. If you wanted to put one in for a particular scene, you could. I mean, my blast shields are where people might come up on the ramp to stop people coming up the ramp. But if you, that's not a Star Wars thing. That's just a Titanfall 2 thing, actually. I'm thinking of. But blast shields are not unusual. Like on the back of an aircraft carrier, where they come up behind where things are taking off. So I do think there's definitely a lot of people out there in the open lock clip. So the multiverse one, they do some really great Kickstarters based just on Legion. It's Star Wars, very, very Star Wars, but aimed at Legion. And they use open lock, and they only put 1 or 2 in. I've actually got a lot of clips in, but I've got a lot of clip holes, but I don't clip every hole. So you have options. But they are really useful. They click really nicely. The mini clips don't click quite as nicely every time. But sometimes it's about the print orientation, because I've not got supports in, and sometimes there's quite a lot of spanning, and sometimes it does it better than others. Tamsin, for the Notarine one, maybe some straight sections that can go between the curved sections might be a useful addition. That's a good idea, actually. I was thinking of doing end caps, an S, so you can change direction, because obviously it's handed. Actually, on the desert and on the sci-fi, I've mirrored. So the outsides are the same, but actually the inside to outside's a different angle, because it's obviously curved, so they're slightly different angles. So I was going to do ends so you can make little buildings or double buildings, especially the shop section I thought might be quite popular, and then you can put canopies above it if you want. And you could do just the lower half of that, or you can take the upper one and put it on a base. I've designed a base for it. So there's loads of options, and I think the straight one's a really good idea, but just then do I do options? It may be that's a stretch goal, to be honest. If people want it, then I'll do straight sections as well, because it's not that hard to add in all of the different things, but they're all based on a curve, and Sci-fi and the desert have the same curves. So they're the same canopies, hatches, gantries, inner shelves, etc. They're just, one's got a desert finish and one's got a sci-fi sort of, it's got like sci-fi plates on it. Simon York, we'll check out Saturday Point, I think. Big price tag on the starter box though. It is a big type. It's like 118 quid at Battleground Gaming. So it is. He's doing the whole of everything for like 300 and I went, that's a bit rich. I can't really afford it. But I probably will end up springing for some of it because I really like the minis. And I like the idea of designing for more than one game. But it's bigger again than this. But, you know, the Second Dynasty stuff, I've got 28mm. It sits as well on the landing pads. You know, there's nothing in a landing pad. But when I get onto the habitats and mining facilities and even the lava factory, the next thing's going to be a lava factory. Once I get onto that, I need to start, you know, yes, handrails and gantries can be whatever you want because, you know, they can be tall or low. I mean, let's face it, Star Wars never puts a handrail on anything. But doors is where, but then mechs are tall. So I've got some 28mm mechs from Second Dynasty that I've painted up. And I've done them in 15mm as well, but I've got them in 28mm. And they are massive. So if you're in a factory, you can have massive doors. This has got large doors because if you look at Mando, they take speeders in there, you know, the big vehicles in. So on a landing pad, on the industrial things that I'm doing, the size is less relevant. But on, say, the Nakagin Tower Hotel, suddenly that size becomes a lot more crucial because the difference in door height between a 28mm and a 35mm figure is quite noticeable. And actually the biggest problem I need to redo it. I've got too many options on it. I'm going to make it more just like slightly easier to print with fewer clips. And what I found was it's actually the bases. I've not allowed enough space for a base to get through the door. So yeah, it's when I get to those doors I'm really going to struggle, I think. So that's one to still get there. So Simon, Xenos Rampart is a miniature agnostic rule set. Just use whatever minis you have. Perfect. That's exactly what I want to design for. There's a lot of miniatures agnostic ones out there, and I'm not doing minis. I might partner with people to do minis. And Second Dynasty and Darkfire Designs and actually Print Minis have all said, because I'm using their minis in the pictures to when I come to do the final pictures with the models. And actually ZZM Armory, he just sent me today 4 of his ships, and he's got a TIE fighter, a X-Wing, and they're all called different things, but you know, effectively a TIE fighter and X-Wing. And so I can put those in the renders that I've done, so you can actually see ships in the renders as well, which will just make it look more realistic. So Stephen, good shooting, Digger or Norm? I'm going to guess that was actually Timber, Stephen, because I can see who deleted it. I don't know what it said. Straight sections could be a plane, i.e. no shops. And there is actually a plane for all of them. So yeah, I definitely think it won't take long to do, to be honest. The deserty bit's a bit of a pain because you have to go and some of them are a bit big. I didn't quite decimate them down enough. But yeah, there's definitely... yeah. Timber says aliens come in all sizes, so doors have to be big to accommodate them. That's true, and actually I have got some blasted Samaflange aliens, and he said I can use them, that I did on the speed paint video I did, and he's got some beautiful aliens, so they will be featuring on it as well. So there's a bit of a danger when you're trying to do it. You want to show off how they can fit in a environment, but you also need to show off actually the product as well. So I need to spend a bit of time, and I think the real life ones, I have a ZZM Armory ship, Zachary designed. It's actually the Bad Batch ship, and I've got the Bad Batch from Darkfire Designs. I'm going to do a Bad Batch diorama eventually because hey, why not? But it'll be in their Republic days rather than their post-Republic days because I don't like the newer armour. I prefer the old style. It was a bit more dark and brooding. But yeah, there's a piece there. I'm going to put the movie on again. So I can talk about, these are light year ships. They're actually about 28 mil, and that's a Starlink ship. So most of them at the moment have just got toys on there. And I may end up doing a video at some point about how to paint toys without painting them, you know, how just to weather that down so it looks a bit better, or how to paint toys. What I'm going to do, and it will be a video, I'm going to take all of these, probably in sections for the modular ones, but maybe the landing pads that are built up, I'm just going to take as all one piece and glue the tops on so I can turn them upside down. I might take the tops off. And I'm going to take them all outside, put plastic sheeting on the lawn, give everything 1 or 2 coats of spray putty, and then, which you could use filler primer from the US because you can't buy spray putty there, it appears, and then spray them. And I've got white paint, desert paint, dark brown paint, not quite sure what that's for. I've obviously got grey, I've got brick red, probably not going to use that. White is obviously a key colour for sci-fi, so a lot of them are going to be white. And I've got a fluorescent colour shift green and a fluorescent colour shift purple for the city landing pad one for the top of the building. And I'm going to do that because I just feel like being green and purple. The one that's at the end of this is in purple and blue, so I might change my mind because the blue was a bit blue. And most of them are going to end up then, and I'm going to have a spray wash, which will be an acrylic black spray wash, which I'll probably just make up. I've made it in the past. You put matte medium, and there's a recipe on my website or video, and I'm going to just spray them all and leave them. So spray putty, 2 coats, upside down. Obviously, you've got to do the underneath and the top on a lot of them. Or turn them upside down so you catch everything, just to get rid of the layer lines. Then I'm going to spray with paint 1 layer, then I'm going to spray with a pump action with a wash. And that's it, that's all I'm going to have time to do. And I need it to be a nice day when I do that, and then it's going to be really cool. That's the purple and green one going there. I thought it would match that. And then this is one I still need to finish the diorama for. The lat will go on it for the photos. This is my brutalist one. This is just like, this is concrete. That's all there is to it. It's concrete. So, tiny doors would be fine for the Chingas from Build the Galactic Hero. Or even Babu Frick from the recent he was in the last sequel and in Mando, and he's about yay big. I actually have a panel access on one of the, on the big ring one, on both of them, because the desert and the sci-fi have the same. It's about that big, and I look at it and go, actually, you could get a person in there, but it's called an access panel one. So David says, surely you just say what size base the mesh is designed to fit and people can adjust the print scale accordingly. It's not quite as simple because you do have to adjust the clips system as well. But what you'll find is, I'll say it's 28 to 35 mil for this, because actually there isn't really a scale on this. But what I might do on some of them is say small door and large door, and just do something like that so people can print the different size doors. Stephen, I remember Forbidden Planet, the doors on the areas built by the aliens were diamond shaped and the audience were invited to draw their own conclusions about what they looked like or what their design aesthetics were. Yeah. And then timber, another coat of paint going on the wheelie bin then. No, I've actually brought some plastic sheeting, so I'm going to do the whole lawn with it, because by the time this is done, this is a good, this is a good amount of painting to do, because there's actually a couple that haven't even printed yet that I'm still doing they're on the queue. Colin says, loved your travel build. Well, hi Colin, and thank you very much. So I know this has been a bit of a different live stream, and I can see that the viewers are dropping off massively. It helps, YouTube gives you the number and the graph, and I've done a lot of talking, and this isn't my normal style. The reason is I haven't done any modelling in a month. I literally haven't sat down and modelled in a month, because I've been doing 3D design on the computer. But I don't want to start turning this into how to do Blender, which is what it would be if I put that 3D print design on, as a video. And actually, I don't use vanilla blender that you get off the thing. I use 5 or 6 add-ons, and everything I do is heavily shortcutted. It's not easy to just explain. So it's a route I don't want to go down, because there's some great tutorials out there. And my tutorials, I want to keep my YouTube channel as more scenery and terrain. And I'm going to move to do smaller videos that fit around things. So you'll have seen my little terrain bases. The next one is mud. I've got a squad of clone troopers half painted ready for it, because obviously the mud needs to go up their legs a bit. So we need to do that. And I haven't even had a chance to sit down and do that. I'm due a video out next week, and I'm just like, I don't even know what the video is going to be yet, because I haven't got anything. I could do my workshop one. That's an edit of just what my workshop has been like, the build of it. I could put that out. I've got a new workshop. Maybe wait until it's tidied. And then when the Kickstarter comes out, I'd like to do the Kickstarter painting one as sort of the first week the Kickstarter comes out. It will come out on they said Wednesday, Thursday were the best days, so probably a Wednesday. So yeah, we'll see. Bill, 60s, my number 6 key is broken. Oh, was it 60s? I was going to say it's black and white. I thought it was 50s actually. Forbidden Planet. Oh well. So one of the aims over the next couple of weeks is that these boxes will be gone by the next live stream. So when I sit here, these have got dioramas in them, but the space that I'm putting them in, I can't get at some of the areas they came from. And I'm still bringing some of the dioramas back from Mum's, and I want to have a bit of reorganisation and sort them. I've got loads of, I've got one bookcase, which is a display case. It's got glass shelves and it's graphite. And I want it to go upstairs, and everything's white up there. So it needs to go out in the garden and be spray painted as well before it goes upstairs. So there's just so much to do to sort everything before I get to that final workshop reveal. Yeah, so that video might be later. I can always miss a week on videos, but I like to keep them coming. And I've just got so much going on. And the new project, when it starts, which is mid-April, is NDA'd, so I can't put it out in April, but I'm going to be working on it in April. So we'll just have to see. I need to get myself sorted and get a few more hours in. So now I've finished watching the Clone Wars, I may have to start working of an evening again just to get the next project started. But that's just where life is at the moment. But all I can say is thank you so much for sort of sticking with this slightly more chatty. And I can talk for 2 hours, but normally I do have modelling going in the background. So just to show, we'll put the models back, just to show that I can model. I'm finding it really exhilarating doing this. I do love creating stuff. I love the idea of the concept of being able to do sci-fi and design what I like and come up with things. I've said that I'm trying not to I'm trying to call up IP, but not tread on the toes of them. I'm never going to go Warhammer because they're so litigious for that reason. This has actually got print errors in it, but I'm not spending the 4 days it takes to reprint the wrong pieces, 3 days probably. I mirrored something incorrectly. I've test printed almost everything, but some things, like the desert upper layer here, because it's identical to the sci-fi, the floors that are in the sci-fi one will also be in it. I haven't printed it, and I just don't think I'll get time before the Kickstarter starts, but I'll probably test print it during the Kickstarter. So when the files go out, which is 6 weeks after the start, for the base pack, then I'll be able to have it tested and done by then. So the Kickstarter itself, it's going to be 35 quid or $35, because I was advised dollars has better sales value. $35 for the for everything. It'll be an early bird of $30, and you'll get everything here for that price. So it's a really good amount of stuff for the price. Loads and loads of different options. Future ones will build on it, and it will obviously be an add-on for them at a slightly higher price. And then when it's done, it will go to my mini factory on a shop, because I'm using them for Pledge Manager. I'll have a shop for free, so you'll be able to buy individual elements for a price, and I've got to work out how to get that on the shop. but you'll be able to get them for a price, and you'll be able to do late pledges and get it for slightly more money later on as a campaign, the whole set as a bundle, again through My Mini Factory. And one of the reasons that My Mini Factory is good is they do all the VAT for you on the sales, so I don't need to worry about the VAT of selling. Kickstarter doesn't do the VAT, so everybody I sell to EU, I need to account for the VAT on it, but I'm not EU VAT registered, I'm UK VAT registered, so if I sell it to you and you're a UK person, I have to take 20% off the top because I'm a VAT registered company. And yeah, so it's interesting. If I sell to you in the US, I don't. So it's going to be fun. Thankfully, I'm an accountant, so I can cope with that. Bring us a terrain video, says Bill. Yeah, it's coming. You can see that diorama I just showed off, the sort of purple and blue one that's very weathered. That is due. It's an expanding diorama, which is why it's not finished at the front. It's got a lat going on one end. It's got an ATTE, which is the walkie tank things. They're walkers basically, but 6-legged low slung things in the middle. And then it's got a couple of crash lats at the other end. Now, Darkfire Designs just did a crash lat that I could just print, but I've got 2 print fails, so it may end up with 3 crash lats. You never know. So Timber says, sounds very reasonable. I've got in mind that the first one can't be too expensive because I'm not planning to make a huge amount of money on it. It will have a low funding goal. I don't think it will have many people come on board because it's my first one. So what I'm looking for is to get my name known and to get it out there and to get a set of stuff I can actually sell on My Mini Factory as well, going on as well. So that's coming kind of there. I was talking to My Mini Factory, who were very helpful and advised a Kickstarter first. They were really, really helpful actually, My Mini Factory. I had a video chat with them. And they basically said, it's not how much you put on it, it's what the price is that will determine how your Kickstarter does, really. So I probably have got too much stuff on it for what they're getting. And I have been designing this only half time since start of the year, really. Not quite the start, but start of the year. But I've made a lot of false starts. I've been doing a lot of test prints on bases and wedges, and you know, this would be an example. It's on my fail pile because for some reason when I put the STL out, I didn't put all the little sprockets that hold the top bit to the bottom bit. So, you know, I've got a load of snags to get through. And it's things like that take quite a while just to do. You know, designing is one thing, getting it printable is another thing, and working out, does it print? And this one was the test print because I was worried about the side here not printing at that angle. It's not going to go in focus, is it? Pull it back a bit. Because of the angle off the print bed, because it printed like that, flat, sort of with, yeah. Anyway, there's loads of stuff like that is just very technical that I was learning and thinking about and trying, and the wedges took a while to design. So there's just definitely a lot of ideas that you need to test and work through. But Matt says, wishing me luck. Thank you very much, Matt. I do appreciate that. So, Bill Forrest, Forbidden Plant was 50s. I said to Stephen that the 60s Dalek doors were also shaped to suit them specifically. Yes, they were cool. And he can't type the number 6. Wow, such a problem. I guess you can spell it. Will there be any cranes or habitats integrated into the landing pads? No, Colin. This was a case of I'm trying to keep it simple. So they're coming in a spaceport later. I am going to do a spaceport set, which will have, the landing pads will be part of it. So there'll be a couple more designs for it. But it will have the control buildings, the hangars, the fueling stations, the pipe work, the cranes, gantries, maintenance places, all of that will be there. So there'll be kind of like a spaceport scene, and that'll probably be like my 3rd or 4th one. I'm doing the lava factory next because I have to do kind of something a bit different, I think, and I want to get some environments out there. So every other one's going to be like sci-fi buildings and whatever, but then the ones in between are probably going to be environments like lava, ice, water. So you can have some tiles for lava, ice or water that you could use to create area terrain or whatever it is you want. David, I have a local tabletop gaming group, so I will publicise your Kickstarter to them. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. And guys, I really do need to make some money. So any help you can give on plugging it to people would be very much appreciated. Graham, I'm sorry I'm late, but been unwell for a while, but I'm better now. Hope you're well. Thank you, Graham. I am. I'm just starting to lose my voice from talking too much. Hence drinking the tea. I hope you're better. Well, I'm glad you are better now. So thank you. John says, when are you going live to buy the products, Kathy? I think, so this is the thing, I'm off the third week of May. So I'm not going to make it for Thursday this week because I haven't even started the Kickstarter stuff and it takes a few days. I'm going to get all the Kickstarter stuff ready, but I also want the models printed. And so what's backlogging it at the moment is doing all the final snagging on the parts. I'm printing everything through to check it all works. So I can take photos of the actual models that I've got upstairs with just those few coats of paint I was talking about. So to do that, I've got another week of printing, and I don't want it to finish when I'm on holiday because you want to be around for the last push and to be doing loads of social media. So I think the third week where there's a lull will be, so that means it will go out it'll go out in 2 weeks' time rather than this Wednesday. It will go out in 3 Wednesdays' time or whatever it is, but it'll be the end of April. So it comes off the last but 1 week of May or something like that. So I will, but I'm not going to commit until I know everything's ready and perfect. And although I've got 6 weeks, I've got another project in between. So while the Kickstarter's running, I'll be doing a lot of FAQs and stuff like that. And there's a lot to write for Kickstarter. There's a lot of photos to take, renders to do. You saw the render of the how to put it all together. There's things like that to do for some of the parts to explain how things work. And then whilst the Kickstarter's running, I then need to be designing all of the instructions for everything on how everything works. Some of it's quite specific. So the TIE fighter, very flat front mounted, so you can go up onto the ramp and go down into your TIE fighter. There's one specific side for that, but you wouldn't know it from the naming. So I'll do a instruction booklet of, if you want to do this particular one, this is what you would use for it, and it will have the recipe. These are what the ingredients, this is how it goes together. So I'll be doing that. So I'm going to do I'm going to have to find a better word than recipe, but I'm going to do some recipe cards for some of the simple ones, maybe the ones that I've printed or the ones that are rendered. I'll say, this is what was needed. 6 of this tile, 6 of this tile, obviously because it's a hex, 4 of this tile, whatever it is, this side. So I might say it like that, or a side, but not all the sides do everything. So some of the curves, you can't get everything to curve easily. So the curves have certain sides. The straights have certain sides. I haven't done everything as a hex. I haven't done everything as a diagonal, because diagonals are a nightmare. Because once you start on it, you realise that a corner, if you want to do an inside and an outside corner, so if someone does an L-shaped one, suddenly that makes about 8 extra sides, because there's one here, or what happens if I have one here, and suddenly it becomes really hard to make all of these corners and sides. It becomes a very intensive number of tiles. So I had hexes and octs because octagons will in a future one, and I'll probably add them in a future one because the octagons got very complex very quickly. So the hexes, to be honest, but they tessellate better. So I probably 3 weeks time, 2-3 weeks time is a short answer. Bill says best of luck. Thank you. And it's 10 o'clock, so I probably will have to wind up. Colin says spaceport sounds cool. Good luck. Thank you. I did the Traverse spaceport, so it's going to be heavily drawing on some of that. And then David, so a base set for Kickstarter with stretch goals. Yes, the stretch goals will be things like extra aerials. You get one with the circles, but extra aerials, some sort of extra sides, ramps, designs, tops, whatever. Tam said, it's a shame you hadn't done the spaceport set back before I did the hanger backdrop I posted on Second Tendencies Discord. That's true, that was a lovely hanger backdrop. But actually, spaceports and hangers are slightly different. I designed a hanger for the rampart that I did, Tamsin, and it's very vertical, and it's not at all like I would do for a spaceport. So they're actually two different things again. So I might do a hangar in the future from a big spaceship. That probably might be one from a space station, but that would be a different one again. Bill of materials. Thanks, Timber. That's a good one. Parts list. I'm like thinking IKEA, but yes. Yes, Bill says he's a bill of materials. Anyway, it's past time. So, so Graham says, I've got a question. Is it advisable to get a 3D printer? I wouldn't be without mine. I own 7 now, and I have my 3FDM running 24/7. But I'm designing for 3D printing. If you want to do terrain, if you want to do detailed parts, I couldn't live without mine. So, and if you do resin, do get all the hazmat stuff, as Digger says. Resin printing is smelly, FDM is not. Very true. So anyway, good night, folks. Night, Stephen. Bedtime for you. 2301 for Germany. So good night, everybody. Have a great one. Thank you all for sticking through it. And next time, hopefully, we'll have some modelling on here. It may not be that exciting, but I think I know what's going on here next time. It's probably NDA'd at the moment. But anyway, so I'll tell you more about it. And then Thunderbirds will resume over the summer at some point when I get through this hump of May and June that's really busy. April, May, probably. So see you all next time. Have a great one. Thank you as ever for the support. And thanks to my moderators, Timber and Digger, who came this time. Thanks. Bye. End.